listening to our podcast and show today. This is the Brave Talk Show. Brave women, bold topics. And today we're talking about premarital counseling. So this means going to therapy or counseling with your significant other before you choose to commit to marriage or you're on your way to marriage. First of all, did anyone in this room do that?
No.
The silence means no.
Did anyone wish they would have done that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's the thing. I think
Maybe.
even if I had done it with Ben, I think I still would. I just had the rose-colored glasses on, and so I would have just been like, "Oh," and I was such a people pleaser back then that I don't even know if it would have mattered.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same. I think wouldn't change anything for me because when we did do, I think and that's the thing I want to say because I think there's nothing wrong with going to counseling. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there right now because people always think therapy is for everybody. But because once we went after I think a second child, and we decided communication style is not working.
Yeah.
And then having somebody to just kind of mediate, this is how you do it. We've seen since then it's oh my gosh, the tools that we got 6, 8, 10 years ago, it's still effective now. And so I think it's yes, it would have helped, but
I agree. I think it would have helped, and I wish we had done it. I think that it would have saved us a lot of grief our first year.
Mm-hmm.
We had no idea what we were getting into. I think we were very naive. We believed we loved each other, and we both had similar spiritual and political views. So it's going to be awesome. We're going to get married. It's going to be awesome. And there's things that you don't realize, little things that I think, and I don't know if premarital counseling would have brought them up, but to me, it's there's some things that should be discussed in premarital counseling, little things even what kind of food are you going to be eating together? I'm telling you, for us, I was a big veggie, plant-based. I wasn't vegetarian, but I made salads every night, And Owen, our first year of marriage, guys, you're gonna laugh, but he actually told me, I want you to stop buying salads. We can get our vitamins through a multivitamin. That's what he said. And then he was tired of me spending so much money at Trader Joe's on healthy food.
The same man that
and now you know why he got cancer.
With
now
my husband said that he would never buy gas station food.
Oh my
Remember
gosh.
that?
He was
he has changed his ways. And I laugh at him all the time. I'm you have changed so much. To the point where now, back then I was you are so unhealthy. And I wanted to change him and the way that he ate to the point now where I'm I'm going to sneak some Del Taco today without him knowing. It's kind of, it's crazy. But yeah, he did that. Or, he was tired of how much money I spent at Trader Joe's and was I'm going to show you how to shop. And then took me to Food for Less. And I don't know if any of there's Food for Less is in Utah, but it's like the Winco, I guess, of California. And he said, okay, I'm going to go through this aisle. And he went and he got 20 boxes of Hamburger Helper and put it in the cart and was this is how you shop. So I wish those are things that I wish a counselor had been okay, let's talk about that. And then the counselor had been that's not a healthy food. I don't know, something that's you need to let her do her thing with food. And then if you want to eat Hamburger Helper, that's on, you know what I mean? That kind of a thing.
Stuff that parents should be able to talk to their kids
See,
about, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Because I think you have to kind of get your kids ready. You know how we ready 18, get them out of the household. Because that's one thing. I work with teenagers, and some of those things are skills. We have skills classes, and those are the things we have to teach your children sometime too. Will therapy work? Great, yes, but I think you have to.
Yeah,
I think so. I am now a single mom, obviously back into the dating world, and I think about my future. Do I still believe in the Institute of Marriage? I mean, I have 4 kids. Do I want to be married? How does that look now? Because I have a different mindset, and I don't believe the same things that I did, in terms of religion. And so what does that look like going forward, right? My first marriage, it was a very short courtship. If any, we get married and then whatever. I feel premarital counseling would be good for anyone, but specifically those who are getting married quickly and young.
Yeah.
Because now I'm okay, I'm probably going to be dating someone for several years before I ever marry them.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more at stake, right? A, I don't want to get divorced again.
Yeah.
B, I have 4 kids, so there's other humans that need to be involved, that everything's working. He's got past, I got past. We need to make sure it all works. So it's less likely we could probably premarital counsel ourselves because
Yeah.
there's so much time and error and fixing. But I absolutely feel like it should have been encouraged when you're getting married so young and so quickly.
Mhm.
And not that because it could have, not that I'm saying like if I had gone, I probably wouldn't have married my first husband. I probably still would have. But there might have been things that have been disclosed
Yes.
sooner on. There might have been things that it took us 10 years to solve that we could have solved earlier.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's extremely important if you're getting married at such a young age and you're not living with this person or spending years and years with them before you marry
Yeah.
them.
Even like, what do you deal with the fight? Like, how do you do conflict resolution?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a big one.
Just teaching that, because guess what? The honeymoon's going to be over and you guys are going to get into a fight, and how are you going to handle it? You know?
But what is the do's and don'ts though of that there? Because I did have, we have some, I know a couple that just got married and they did do marriage counseling. But what happened, I think you have to go to somebody that know what they're doing, because in their marriage counseling, there was so many things that brought up that caused more chaos within the relationship than anything else. So, like, should there be a do's and don'ts of what you want to know before you get married?
I think so.
Or do you want
I
to
have a different everything because I did 2.5 years of marital therapy with my former spouse before we decided to divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely caused more chaos into the marriage. And people are like, is that why you got divorced? I'm like, listen,
it brings the conflict to the table.
whether I knew about it or not, it was happening.
Yeah.
So, like, ignorance was bliss for me.
Yes.
And so, yes, bringing up and getting really deeply involved in therapy absolutely caused more chaos. But I would have rather known then, and I learned so many things, and he learned so many things that I was like, oh, this is, like, more problematic than I thought, and there's more, and there's layers that we tried our hardest to figure it out, and then we decided that's not where we were going. But then I think now, like, what if we wouldn't have done that? And I lived in this relationship for 5 or 10 more years. It's just a waste of time at that point. And so I would want to know everything going in, because if you don't know it, that just doesn't mean it's not there. You just aren't capable of dealing with it. Give it to me now and let's see if we can figure it out.
And if you go in knowing it, like, let's say hypothetically, it would have come out in premarital counseling that your ex enjoyed certain magazines, right? Yeah. And you knew that, and you talked about it, and you were aware that that was an issue, and he was like, hey, I'm working on it. You could have made the decision of, okay, I'm going to go into this marriage knowing that, and we're going to work on it together. Or, you know what, that's actually a deal breaker for me. I didn't know that. You know, I think it's important to know what your deal breakers are, and, like, those things come up, like, know them now while you can still get out of that relationship.
Right.
You know?
Or even just having the awareness of that, like, knowing, like, okay, he's struggled with pornography in the past. Maybe he is not going to have anything in the future, but he does have a history of it in the past. I didn't know of the history of certain addictions. I could have been more prepared with a counselor being like, listen, Robin, it's not about you. And, like, I would have saved years and years and years of grief and, like, issues.
But even with premarital counseling, people change.
Oh,
there are addictions that show up later in marriage that they didn't deal with before. So even if you had premarital counseling, it's not going to guarantee that you're going to not have any problems. You're going to avoid some problems. People change and people grow, and I just think that premarital counseling is a good idea, but it's not going to.
And in a marriage too, I think I love what you said there, because it's like as you add kids, you add new circumstances. And so it might not even be like you do premarital, and then to be like, and that's why I said like that regular check-in, that like, hey, like doesn't sound like
doing?
So exactly. So this time like Shania will be laying in bed, I'm just like, how do you feel? How are you doing in this marriage? Like, what you add? Like, what do you feel? Like, we have this conversation where it's like, well, how are you feeling with our marriage? Because the thing we always say is like, we see people that's been married for 20 years getting a divorce, and a lot of people is like, oh my gosh, you know. So
how do they do it? They were married for 20 years.
Exactly, and I love that. Like, put it out there on the table, but we're changing. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? We new goals, like you're starting a business, like we all are exploring new things, and so you have to check in with that person and be like, are we on the same page? Do we have the same goal? Are we, you know? And so we do this where we have this 5-minute question, like.
What's the other question?
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
Are we, you know, because love should not be questioned because of what people are doing to you, but it's still that check-in, like, hey, do you have any, where are you at with our marriage? And so that's the first thing, like, where are you at? Okay, have your goals changed from when you were 5 years ago to now? Is it something that you feel like I'm holding you back from doing, or us as a family is holding you back? And then it's like, then where would you like to be or see us, as a couple in this amount of time? And what can I work on, or what can we work on together to make our marriage better? And so that check-in, because then if we like, we have a communication issue. We have this, because when you get lost in the chaos of your marriage, you don't, and there's a thing we say in psychology, it's like you get going, and then your kids move out, and you're like, who are you? So it just goes check-in.
I love that.
But I think, in my head, premarital counseling isn't just an investigation to find what's wrong with your spouse before you get married. In fact, that's not what it should be. If you're doing the deep, meaningful work, you'll find out those things, their darkness, and it's less of like I'm trying to discover you and pin you. It's more like I want to know you and know what you struggle with, so we can move forward. So if you're in premarital counseling and all you're doing is just trying to find the dirt on your ex, you're not in a good.
No,
you shouldn't be getting married. And you shouldn't be getting married at all.
But I do think, again, from a young age, I have been in marital counseling, lots of it, different types. It's really about discovering each other and learning how to check in later, learning when you both change, how to come back together. It's tools. And so I do think it's important for anyone, because whether you do find things before, whether you find things later, they change. It's not about discovering. It's about learning the relationship skills on how to be married. Because my parents never gave me a crash course on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Marriage counseling, just in general, is usually
that's
checking and communication, like Vanessa always says, right? I've thought about that so much, about how big of a decision I made at 21 years old. Like, I knew nothing. Knowing what I know now at 38 years old about my husband and about our relationship,
and about yourself,
about myself. Yeah. It's mind-blowing that I made that big of a decision, where my religious beliefs are, I'm not just believing that I'm married for life, I'm married to this man for eternity.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, I made that decision at 21. That was pretty big of me. Like, how did I even...
Probably should have done some premarital counseling. Just to like make sure I had all my ducks in a row here.
I've thought about that so much. I had no idea the weight of the choice that I was making.
Yeah.
I was in love.
Right.
I knew that it was right. I felt good in my gut, in my heart. Like, all of the things lined up where I was like, he's who I want. But then there was so much more since then where I've had to continue to choose him.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's why marriage counseling is so good. So whether you do it before or during or even after your marriage ends and then you start it again,
Well, the main thing that I've learned in marital counseling with my former spouse, like me and him in the same room, the overall arching theme that I learned was directed at myself.
Ooh.
So if I would have done that before, I would have known who Robin is long before.
But is that even, like, are we capable of the depth?
At 18 or 20.
I think we absolutely are more capable than we lead on our little 18-year-olds to believe. We're like, just go to school, get a job. Like, who's challenging these kids to be like, let's think deeper. Let's get off of our iPads and stuff. And like, I think our parents just, same thing, didn't teach us all about these things because they're like, they're not smart enough.
But I think it's not even about smart enough. Like, I work with teenagers all the time. But I think at 18, there's this misconception of like, you're 18, you're an adult. But that's not true.
The frontal lobe is not even fully developed.
Exactly. So you're expecting this 18 years old. You can start the process when they're young, but you have to go through it with like appropriate experience. And they haven't. If you think about it, like, as we were talking in the kitchen, we want to protect our kids from that bubble. And at 18, we're supposed to be like, think of us like being in the well and be like, go at it. And taking on what we're taking on now, we're just barely figuring it out. I feel like even me, 4 kids later, it took me when I'm almost like in my 30s to be like, oh, shit. That's true. Like, I finally get it. So to think you want an 18-year-old to understand that, that's hard. So we can start the process of helping and think deep, but to be like, just like you said, at 18 to be like, I'm getting married. I don't think anybody know what they're signing up for.
No, that's what I'm saying though, is it's like, there's a double standard. It's like, they're 18, they're just kids, they'll learn along the way. But I got married at 19. But you're making the biggest decision of your life, and I'm going to give you no tools except hurry, go get married so you don't have sex. So I'm like, hey, I think you should wait. I think you should slow down. I think you should do some marital counseling, find you. There wasn't any of that.
Right.
Like, it's kind of a double standard. It's like, you're still a kid, but like, make the biggest decision.
I think there definitely could be some more direction given. And more advice given to young kids who are getting married.
Maybe even like as part of the curriculum, like especially if you're part of a church community, which I think this would be more like you could probably do it community-wise as long as you had like a community that could hold these types of things. But I think like just part of regular curriculum in their daily life, whether it's in school or at church, like part of it is learning how to adult. And that includes how to have a healthy relationships with people, including a possible significant other, so that they go in there prepared.
I think I'm with Robin in that. Like, I know we can rely on the church and the community, but I think like that's like as a parent, that's what you should.
But
do.
the parent is the one that still has to plug their kids into any of it, whether they're doing it at home or plugging them into.
That also takes a conscious parent, and
mine don't have
parents.
Mine
because I'm pretty sure as we raising daughter now, me it's a different mindset. Like I'm not pushing Samaya 8 years old to even like be ready for a husband, but like as her every day, it's kind of like, okay, how to process your feelings, how to talk, because it's just gonna also be on the way you parent.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's gonna be. So I think it's all throughout. It's getting ready to just be. But I think 18 is just like, oh, here you go, goodbye. Like, I guess, at least for my culture, like, here is different. You're 18, you kick your kids out. But me, it's like, you live with your parents in our culture until whenever you're ready to move out. You know
That's what
I
I
mean?
want.
So,
I want my kids to stay home, save their money, work, and then buy a house once they have enough money to, like,
But they also,
Yeah.
like, go
Yeah.
explore the world, date a lot
Yes.
of people, travel.
Travel. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
My kids are going to be in my house.
Here's one thought that I've had too, is that you also need to give yourself, like Rob, if you're looking back at your life, like, don't feel bad. Your 18-year-old or your 19-year-old self did the best that she could.
Yeah.
No, and I've done a lot of like inner
Yeah.
child work, and so I have no guilt or shame. Like she, at that point in time, thought it was the best thing for her,
Yeah.
and I am glad she still did that because I have my children, and like I would, if I wouldn't have married my former spouse, which it wasn't all bad, I would now not be who I am now, ready to take on what I decided to be a more meaningful connect. So I couldn't have gotten here without them.
Yes.
So I don't feel bad. But I just learned through therapy how much I learned about myself and how and I felt like it would have been a catalyst to get there faster if there was knowledge.
And think
around
of how much empowered you are and how much more empowered you are now to teach your daughters that.
Right.
Now your daughters,
Mhm.
you're like, okay, you want to get married at 19, I support that. You felt like, I think if I would have found my husband at 19, I totally would have married him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because he was the one for me, right?
Yeah.
But at 19, I'm like, oh, okay, if my Hallie came to me
That's
ready
like
to get
a couple
married,
years.
I know. Because that's 4 years away.
Would you be
Yeah.
like, don't do it? Or would you be like, go run? Like, what would you say?
I know- I
She
know
found a
that-
guy, she loves him, she wants to get married. What do you say?
I know I couldn't say no because that's just like the Romeo and Juliet situation, right? I push them together. But I think it's all these years leading up to it of teaching her, you need to be the right person. This is your communication style. This is how you need to handle conflict. All of these things, it's not just, suddenly she's 19 and she wakes up and she figures out how to pick a spouse.
No,
She
yeah.
is.
It's
It's all
ongoing.
of this training that I've spent years in my house doing. That's why I think parenting is so important.
So
And
important.
it's so many of us just coast through parenting
That's-
instead
oh
of
my gosh,
taking
I said
it.
that the other
Right,
day.
yeah.
I said we are not parenting. People are not parenting, and that's why we're seeing all this thing. Like we have to make a conscious effort to parent our children.
They're like being a parent.
We have to, because the thing is, and I think one thing that I love what you said is just like our parents at that time was doing the best they know at that time, right? And so we can look at it and be like, oh my gosh, my parents like failed me. Because right now there's a whole generation that are like, I'm no longer talking to my mom because they were this. It's just like, give them a little grace. They were just doing the best they know.
And when you
during
become a
that
parent,
time.
you'll learn
And
that
you'll
too.
understand that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing
Listen,
is
they didn't have
learn.
the internet. They didn't know all the terrible things.
Exactly.
When you know better, you do better.
You do better.
We have the internet.
And now we know better and we have to do better and we have to parent different.
Yeah.
We have to, if we want our kids like at 19 to come and be like, I'm getting married, and we know like, oh, we've taught them what they need to know to be successful, because there's crazy people out there. I think that's why I want my kids in my house forever, because I'm like, you see the spouses doing crazy things to their spouse, and I don't want that for my child.
Well, I have a question. I don't know if you guys have one, but like if somebody is thinking about getting married, obviously we I think for the most part we would all recommend premarital counseling, but are there any books that you would recommend to give to any teenagers or college age kids who are wanting to one day get married, and like you want like this would help prepare them to like this is what a good tool would be, or maybe what marriage is more like just so they can prepare. Do you guys have any books that you
I don't
recommend?
have a marriage book, but I have a book that I've loved, and it's 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. And
Because you got to work on yourself if
you
you're going to
gotta
love
work
on somebody
yourself.
else, right?
So I really like that.
13 things
Mentally Strong People
don't do. Ooh, it's like an
I have
unbook.
like actually a couple, but of course in my head
You can
there's
do
one
it.
by Matt Townsend. It's really
I love
good.
him. We need to have him on the podcast.
Mhm.
There was one. There's a female version and a
male
men
one.
version, and we'll link in the show notes. I think it's called like She Is or Here I Am, and he. Anyway,
They're really good.
they're really good.
You talking about that couple that lives in Oregon? that did it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I actually do have some recommendations. I'll have to put them in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think for me, like I think those are a great book. I've read both of those. But I think the other thing to not be ashamed of is to talk to people. Like you have a community, especially if you're in Utah, of married couple. And I think when somebody comes to you, it needs to be honest. Because I think a lot of the time we're like, yeah, get married, it's beautiful, it's all this stuff. But I think it wouldn't be bad to just be like, this is what it is.
It's also a lot of work.
A lot of work. And I think it's like just have this conversation with those that have been there, especially even if it's the older generation, the new, and people that just got married 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, go and do that because, like, you have to be invested in your marriage. Like, it's an investment.
Kind of a self-check to see, like, are you, sure, I know that you love this person, but, like, are you really genuinely ready for marriage? This is what it takes to actually have a healthy marriage. This is what's going to, it's going to be involved with, like, selflessness and all. Are you ready for that? And, like, honestly, do an honest self-check and be like, you know what? I actually am not. Like, maybe I need to wait a year or two, and that's okay. Or, yeah, I'm ready for all of this. I think that would be really powerful. Yeah. A couple of books that I recommend. The Meaning of Marriage. It's by Tim Keller. Amazing book on what marriage really and the meaning of it is. And he walks you through, like, different scenarios, and you can learn a whole lot. And then there's another one called Love and Respect. I forget the name of the author. But I think if you can, like, my biggest tip that I would give my daughter or any female is if you do not fully respect your boyfriend or your fiance, like, fully respect him. And instead you're kind of like, how can I change him? You're already doing that. Don't marry. But if you fully respect him, who he is as he is, then I think that you're ready to go. But, like, you're going to have a lot of problems in your marriage if you already go in without fully respecting them.
Yeah, no, that always says that.
That was 100%.
I know.
When you said that, I was like, oh, yeah, I had zero respect.
I know.
Right? It's a big sign. It's a big sign, right?
You're like, I love him.
Yeah.
We'll make it.
I love him,
We'll
but
change.
I'll make some changes, a little tweaks. Yeah, he needs a little
He'll love
refinement.
me so much that he'll change.
Yes.
Dude,
And the thing
Don't
I
change
always
for
says too, marriage is not, and even anything, it's not a one size fits all. Like, all of marriages look different and have different things that you know. So if hers look different, mine looks different, we all look different. So don't compare if yours is not looking like the person next to you. Like, it's okay. Make it your own marriage.
And guaranteed, if you're looking at some couple out there and you think they have the perfect marriage, guaranteed you get behind the scenes, they've got some stuff that they're working on. They're choosing, they're choosing to make the marriage work. There's choices involved.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait for you guys to listen. Leave us a review or comment on what you suggest about premarital counseling. Is it a waste of time, or did you do it, or do you recommend?
What's something you wish you knew before you got married?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good one. But thanks for listening, guys. We love you. We'll see you on your next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
looking into it. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, well, we want to know what you guys think you are. Leave us comments, reviews, tag us on Instagram, and message us because it's really important. We got to know what you are. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune into our next show, and we'll see you on the crunchy other side.